The New York Islanders split their weekend series with the Pittsburgh Penguins, playing very well at home and not so well on the road. We'll break down both games. Plus, Patrick Waugh calls out the team. We've got all that and more next on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. Well, it was a mixed bag this weekend for the New York Islanders. A very good performance on Saturday with a strong win that they did a lot of things right and better in. And then back to the drawing board on Sunday, a close loss that wasn't as close as the final score seemed to indicate. And again, back to the same old issues rearing their ugly head for this team. And after Sunday's game, and we're going to talk about this a little bit later on in the show, Patrick Waugh calling out the team and basically putting his finger on exactly what went wrong. Now, let's start with Saturday's game, because this was a definite improvement. The Islanders got off to a good start. They were ahead after two periods 4-3, and you begin to say, uh-oh, here we go again. Islanders, gonna be in trouble here to protect that lead. And yet, when it was all said and done, they do protect that lead and end up scoring the last two goals of the game in the third period, including, dare I say, an empty netter. And the Islanders skate away with a 6-3 win. And I like the way the team played. I mean, this was the kind of game that when everything is going right, this team is capable of playing. And when you look at Sidney Crosby, a -3, Brian Rust, a -4, you're saying that you went head-to-head with the top line on the Pittsburgh Penguins, and you end up winning the game. Got to be happy for Casey Cizikas. That beautiful breakaway goal was something to behold. Great that Anthony Duclair had points in every game up until this point since he returned. That is a definite positive. Now, he did not score on Sunday, so that streak ended. But again, just another positive. And with the empty netter, it was 2 goals for Anders Lee, so that was encouraging. Ilya Sorokin, not outstanding, still only an .880 save percentage, but the Islanders got the job done, and that is the bottom line. Yeah, gave up another power play goal. The penalty kill has been a real problem. But this was the kind of game that this team is capable of playing when everything breaks right. And I think we've seen this lineup is sort of the lineup Patrick Waugh prefers. The healthy scratches, Matt Martin, Pierre Engvall, Dennis Cholowski. That was true in both games. And, great to see that fourth line score with Cizikas getting a pair of goals. And so many different players actually contributing to the offense. Got to say this, and I want to address it right away. 2 minor penalties for Maxim Siplikov. I like this kid. I like his potential. I think he is going to develop into a really solid NHL middle six, probably second line forward. Possibly he could get even better. I mean, here's a kid with 26 years old. I don't know how much of a kid, but 7 goals, 19 points in 36 games. So, he's on pace for about 16 goals and, maybe 40 points, give or take. That's my estimate off the top of my head. But he's taking way too many penalties. Took 2 minor penalties on Saturday against Pittsburgh. And by the end of the game, Patrick Waugh had demoted him to the 4th line in large part because he keeps taking these unnecessary penalties. One of them was in the offensive zone. No excuse for these penalties. And yeah, he's got to make his adjustments, getting more used to the North American game. I get it. It's all part of the equation. But, he's got to straighten that out, because when your penalty kill is that bad, you can't afford to keep taking penalties, especially unnecessary penalties. Look, if you pull down somebody who has a great scoring chance, sometimes those are good penalties, necessary penalties. But Maxim Siplikov just seems to take too many bad ones. But what I liked about this game, more than anything, was the hustle, was the intensity level, was the battle level that we just haven't seen enough of from this team. And, all the lines kind of contributed to the team's success. J.G. Pajot had a goal. So you had every line contributing. In fact, out of the 12 forwards who dressed for the New York Islanders, the only 2 that did not have at least 1 point were Hudson Fasching and Kyle McLean. Every other Islander forward had at least 1 point, and Siplikov and Kyle McLean were the only 2 forwards, in fact, the only 2 players in this game who did not record a shot on goal. The Islanders had 34 of them. This is, what this team is capable of when everything is going right. And it was encouraging to see how they, executed it. And, that's important. So all of a sudden you say, hey, even better, what really was exciting was that, the Islanders had a terrible game Monday before the holiday break. And they came out and they had Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to think about it. All week they had, after Monday, to think about what a terrible game they played in front of their home fans against a team on a 13-game losing streak. And they responded. And it was great to see. So, that was the most encouraging thing. They didn't quit. They didn't give up. And that's not this team's MO, if you think about it. They always bounce back when you think they're dead in the water, and when you think they're putting it together, they always find a way to kind of fall apart. Hero and GOAT of the game. I'm going to give the GOAT to Siplikov for the 2 penalties. Yeah, there's a bunch of other options, but I think Siplikov for the 2 penalties is going to get it. And as far as hero of the game, when you're Casey Cizikas and you score 2 goals in a game when you entered the game with 1 on the season, including a beautiful breakaway goal, I got to give Casey Cizikas the hero of the game. Again, a lot of other alternatives, but to me, that's where I go with the Saturday game. And maybe the thing that was so discouraging from an Islander fan standpoint was that they had to play again on Sunday, and we know how much trouble this team has in back-to-backs, how much trouble they have putting together 2 wins in a row. They've only done it, twice all season, and what the lack of consistency that this team continues to show all year long. So here was this golden opportunity to get in there and past the Penguins in the standings possibly and really climb up out of the Metropolitan Division cellar and get back into the playoff hunt if they could put together another winning game on Sunday. And, well, unfortunately, that's not what happened. So we're going to talk about yesterday's game in Pittsburgh, plus what Patrick Roy had to say after the game and why it matters. For our Islanders' birthday of the day, an original Islander who later played for the Kansas City Scouts and Colorado Rockies. This is a forward, a center from St. Thomas, Ontario. Let's see if you can guess who that is. We've got all of that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Well, that definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, it's one of the best features. It's the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. So Saturday felt great, didn't it? And all of a sudden, Sunday, a matinee kind of, 5:30 start. And finally, the Islanders give a start to Marcus Hogberg. And I got to say this, and Patrick Roy agreed, Hogberg played really well. He faced 41 shots, saved 38 of them, including with the score 3-2 with about a minute or 2 minutes, I think, closer to left, where he just somehow got the paddle of the stick down and made an unbelievable save to at least keep the Islanders in the game a little while longer. So that was certainly encouraging. But for the most part, other than Hogberg, this was a problem. This game was more of the same. The Islanders took 2 penalties, a lazy penalty by Noah Dobson and a penalty by Kyle McLean that was called a cross-check, but, let's face it, it was more of a trip or a hold or whatever else. It was a penalty, but, what they called it didn't make a lot of sense. But guess what? The Islanders are the best team in the league, the least penalized team in the NHL, but they're also dead last on the power play. And so the Penguins had 2 power play opportunities, and guess what? They scored 2 power play goals. The first of the 2 was assisted by Sidney Crosby. That made him officially pass Mario Lemieux as the Penguins' all-time assist leader. He thought he had done it on Saturday, but then they took the assist away. So, of course he gets it against the Islanders because the Islanders, he always seems to play his best hockey. Anthony Beauvillier, the former Islander, gets the first goal. Again, the Islanders were not ready to start this game. They were outplayed, especially for the first half of the first period. It got a little better as the period went along, but clearly they were not ready to play. And they fall behind 3-0 and then make a little bit of a rally. Patrick Roy pulls the goalie with like 7.5, 8 minutes left. And both Anders Lee's goal and then later Bo Horvat's goal come 6-on-5 after Roy had pulled the goalie. The Islanders managed to make it 3-2, but it just isn't enough. And again, the problems we see, clearing your own zone, making those basic, who you're going to pick up because guys are left wide open for quality scoring opportunities. And it just was back to the same old for this Islanders team. And to their credit, they didn't quit. They battled back. They made it 3-2. But let's be honest. If I were to ask you, which team played better Sunday, the Penguins or the Islanders? Which team was the more dominant team for the majority of the hockey game? Very few people would objectively say that the Islanders were playing better hockey. So, again, I think it comes down to the same formula. This team isn't fast enough. This team lacks a little toughness and physicality, although it was nice to see Anders Lee, kind of getting involved after the whistle a couple of times when he was shoved. But overall, this team lacks scoring, lacks depth, lacks speed, and doesn't seem to be paying the price by, going to the net. The penalty kill is terrible. The power play is not good. And again, this game is lost on special teams because you lose 3-2, and 2 of the 3 goals are power play goals by the Penguins. Again, this team creates some chances but can't finish. It is, at a certain point, you could say the injuries were a factor, and they were. You could say, okay, we're early in the season, and we're still in the first half of the year, though we're very rapidly closing in on the halfway mark of the season. But eventually you are what your record says you are. And this Islanders team is a below average to average team that is capable of playing well occasionally, but doesn't always get the job done and isn't good enough to win consistently unless they play really flawless hockey, which they rarely do because they're not good enough to do it on a consistent basis. So, that mess, that is what this team is right now, and changes have to come. One other thing that I had to touch on, because everydayers know and have heard me talking about this for a long time. Marcus Hogberg, he did all right. He played well. And this is his 3rd appearance for the Islanders, but his first start. And you know what? He has now faced 58 shots, and he saved 55 of them. I'll take it. I will take it. And Patrick Waugh, after the game, was very complimentary of Marcus Hogberg. Semyon Varlamov still hasn't started skating yet. So, he's not close to coming back, okay? Patrick Waugh has to understand that the Islanders will need to not be afraid to play Marcus Hogberg. And I know there are no back-to-backs until the 24th and 25th of January. So you've got like 3.5 weeks before your next back-to-back. But you've got, 9 games in between those back-to-backs. Would it hurt for Marcus Hogberg to start 3 of the 9, 1/3 of the games? Maybe Varley is back by the time you get up to game 6 or 7 or 8. So, but, right now, I would be playing Marcus Hogberg every 3rd game until Varley is ready to come back. You rest Sorokin, and Hogberg has been good. Am I ready to declare him the next Vezina Trophy winner? Heck no. But is he a serviceable backup goalie who can keep a team in a game? And again, Pittsburgh had more than 40 shots in this game, and a lot of them were high danger chances. The Islanders' defense, inconsistent, like it always tends to be. Hogberg kept them in there, and I am glad on a lot of levels that Ilya Sorokin, A, didn't have to play in a back-to-back, and B, if he would have played, he probably would have faced the same 41 shots. That wears down your goalie. So, the third goalie in your organization is kind of like a fourth line forward. Anything you get from that person is a bonus. His best asset is really on an average team, your fourth line doesn't hurt you and rests your other three lines. Marcus Hogberg at least accomplished that. He kept this team in the game, gave them a chance to win a game that they were thoroughly outplayed on, and at the very least proved that they should at least be confident enough to let him play every third game or so to keep Ilya Sorokin healthy and sharp and not wear him down. All right. Patrick Roy had some interesting quotes after the loss in Pittsburgh on Sunday that I think they were just spot on. We're going to talk about that, and we'll have our Islanders birthday of the day, all that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. I want to thank everybody who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. You can become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from our hosts, Steele and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey podcast on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So Patrick Roy had a lot to say after this game. And I think he really spoke the truth to the team. And, everydayers, you've heard me talk a little bit about sort of the disconnect between Roy and Lou Lamoriello at times. But I think Roy hit the nail on the head with this. He said, I just feel that after we gave up that second goal, we were not mentally strong enough. I mean, we have to, and then he paused and he said, it's just a goal. I mean, we were down 2 in this league, 2 goals. It's nothing. You could come back in those games, and sometimes I feel we don't believe enough in that. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And it's true. It's true. This team, there are psychological issues with this team. Now, the double-edged sword of that is, as the coach, it's sort of his job to prepare the team and make sure that they do believe they can come back if they're down a goal or 2 or 3. So that is partially on Patrick Roy. But you got to figure, with a veteran roster like what the Islanders have, that this team really needs to be better. And when you have a locker room that has been together as long as the Islanders have, the attitude isn't going to change. You've already changed coaches, okay? The confidence issue is only going to change if the Islanders are able to change the locker room, because this group has this issue. And it just gets so frustrating. All year long, we are 37 games into this season, and you've only had 2 back-to-back wins all year and have no times where you've won 3 games in a row. I mean, that's just not acceptable. And I think Patrick Roy just summed it all up. And now it's up to ownership to either replace Lou Lamoriello, or Lou Lamoriello has to say, you know what, we need to change this roster because it's just A, not good enough, and B, there's a issue psychologically with this team. Again, we got to see some changes. We have got to see something different. I think Wah was spot on. Oh, by the way, hero and go to the game. The hero of the game from Sunday, it's got to be Marcus Hogberg. Kept the team in a game where they were thoroughly outplayed for most of it, except for maybe the second half of the third period and a barrage very late in the second period where the Islanders just did everything but score. So I think Marcus Hogberg has to be the hero, and the penalty kill has got to be the GOAT of the game. Again, I mean, I can almost say the penalty kill is the GOAT of the season, and then each game you can add, somebody else who was a problem. You could say, oh yeah, Kyle McLean took a bad penalty. He's part of the GOAT, or Noah Dobson took a bad penalty. But the penalty kill has really got to be considered the GOAT of the game, and quite honestly, the GOAT of the season. So now you've got a situation where you've got a veteran team with confidence issues and psychological issues. You've got a Hall of Fame head coach who replaced another coach who couldn't get this team to believe in itself consistently. Something has to give, and it's got to be a change in chemistry, in the roster, in the locker room, in the talent level. There are changes that just need to be made. They're overdue, and now they've got to happen, and they've got to happen soon, and hopefully we will see it. All right, time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And this is a good one. This is an original Islander. So Saturday was the 75th birthday of former Islander center Dave Hudson. Now, he was originally drafted by the Blackhawks in the 6th round back in 1969. Played a couple of seasons at the University of North Dakota, but didn't make his NHL debut until he joined the Islanders in their expansion season of 72-73. Spent 2 years with the Islanders, then joined the Kansas City Scouts, who are now the New Jersey Devils. Played for them both years they were in Kansas City, 2 years that they were in Colorado as the Colorado Rockies. Played in 409 career NHL games, 59 goals, 183 points, 89 penalty minutes. Actually played in 2 playoff games with the Rockies and had 2 points, a goal and an assist. But his breakout rookie season came with the Islanders. His best game as an Islander, this is easy, March 3rd, 1973, Islanders hosting the Canucks at the Nassau Coliseum. Ed Dyke is the starting goalie for Vancouver. Billy Smith, the goalie for the Islanders. And in this game, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Dave Hudson assists on the very first goal by Bob Cook. That made it 1-0 Islanders. Don Lever scored to tie it less than a minute later. And then late in the period with the Islanders up 2-1, Hudson sets up Bob Cook again. That makes it 3-1 Islanders. And in the second period, after the Islanders lead 4-1, Hudson sets up Bob Cook. That makes it 5-1 Islanders. And then on the power play, late in the second period, with Jocelyn Gavermont of Vancouver in the box, and Dale Talon of Vancouver in the box, a 5-on-3 power play. Dave Hudson scores his 10th goal of the year. Ed Westfall and Germain Gagnon with the assists. And the Islanders extend their lead. In the third period, another power play goal by Ed Westfall is assisted by Dave Hudson and Tom Miller. Islanders crushed the Canucks by a score of 9-3, 26 saves for Billy Smith. But for Dave Hudson, who was not a prolific offensive force, a goal, 4 assists, that's a 5-point night. He was a +2. He scored once on the power play, and he scored his goal on 2 shots on goal. Dave Hudson is our Islanders' birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, we're back tomorrow. We'll preview Tuesday afternoon's New Year's Eve matinee in Toronto against the Maple Leafs. So make sure you join us for that. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, email us at lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and of course, let's go Islanders.